All right, so we've done seconds, thirds, sixths, and sevenths, but we've kind of left out fourths, fifths, and octaves. So we're going to talk about those. These in a major scale, fourth, fifth, and octave, are going to be what's called perfect. So the top note has got to still be in the scale or key of the bottom note. So compared to a perfect interval with the same letter names, you can have either an augmented or diminished. Augmented is going to be half step higher, diminished half step smaller, or lower, half step smaller, yeah. So here's what we learned in the seconds, thirds, sixths, and sevenths. You have your major, which is in the major key. Then you have your augmented. You make it a half step larger. Minor, half step smaller, and then diminished, 2 half steps smaller. Now, for perfects, you don't have to worry about major and minor. We're just going to have perfect in the normal scale. But augmented and diminished do the same thing. Augmented is going to be a half step higher or bigger. Diminished is going to be a half step smaller. And then there's nothing down here. There's nothing that's going to be 2 half steps smaller. So it's like you're combining the major and minor into perfect. Okay. Now notice that diminished has 2 different meanings. Diminished could be 2 half steps smaller than major, or 1 half step smaller than perfect. There's nothing that is 2 half steps smaller than perfect, so you don't have to even worry about that. So perfect, again, perfect is never going to be used for seconds, thirds, sixths, and sevenths. Never. Only major, minor, augmented, diminished. Also, major and minor is never going to be used for fourths, fifths, and octaves. Primes, I think they mean unison. That just means it's just the same note. So, perfect means is pretty much the same as major, except perfect is only used for fourths, fifths, and octaves. We just call it perfect because that's what we do, because musicians like to make things crazy. All right, so we're going to identify these fourths, fifths, and octaves. So, first you need to tell if it's in the key. Bottom note D, key of D has F sharp and C sharp. So you know that's a fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is this major, or is this perfect, augmented, or diminished? A is not sharp or flat in the key of D, and there's nothing there, so we are perfect. If you just want to write like P5, that works. All right, now we're in fourths. You have a B flat. In the key of B flat, you have B flat and E flat. This is an E. Is that E flat? No, it's natural, so it's a little higher. It's bigger. So this is an augmented fourth. 1, 2, 3, 4. Augmented fourth. And again, just do A4. Make sure it's capital A. And then diminished is going to be a lowercase d. Okay, here's our octave. D and D. In octaves, if you want to be a perfect octave, they got to be the exact same note. This is a D flat. Makes it smaller, therefore diminished eighth or diminished octave. And you can do the rest of those. Now we're going to identify intervals in general. So these could be octaves, seconds, fourths, fifths, sixths, whatever. So you can finish with all of these. Remember, treble, bass clef. This one's bass. Oh, that was supposed to be F. I can do clefs, but that's the same thing still stands. And then treble. Always check the clefs, unlike what I did. If that was treble clef, that would be a D, but a bass clef is an F. But the interval is still the same. Thank goodness. Okay. Then we're going to do the same thing, write the top notes of these intervals. Now let's double check this little chart here, the interval chart. We got that same one up here. So for seconds, thirds, sixths, and sevenths, half step larger is augmented. Same as the scale is major, half step smaller, minor, 2 half steps diminished. Now if it's still on the same scale, on this side for primes, fourths, fifths, and octaves, I think primes is unison. I'm not used to seeing it like that, but unison. That means it's just the same note, same octave, everything. Half step larger, augmented, half step smaller, diminished. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to do one for treble clef, one for bass. So diminished fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's our fifth. You need to make it diminished. In the key of G, D is normally natural. Got to make it a half step smaller. Diminished fifth. Let's look at this one. Augmented fourth. 1, 2, 3, 4. G to C. In the key of G, there is only an F sharp. C is normally natural, but it's augmented. Got to make it bigger. So we're going to add a sharp. And continue on with the rest of these.